Om Bhura Bhuvah Svah Tatsavitururenyam Bargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste, my dear friends. This is 8th video on the life and teachings of Swami Brahamananda. Video number 8 starts with disciple is asking a question. Maharaj, is the Kundalini awakened by the grace of the Guru? Swami Brahamananda replies, through the grace of the Guru everything can be had, even the knowledge of Brahma, but the grace is not easily obtained. You must work hard for it. Begin now, devote yourself to spiritual disciplines, plunge into the very depth of your soul. To do this, it is advisable to establish a definite routine for the practice of japam and meditation, and to follow it with unwavering tenacity, whether you like it or not. Maharaj, how are you progressing with your spiritual practices? Disciple: not very well, Maharaj. I find so little time for them. There is so much work to be done. Maharaj: nonsense. It is a mistake to think that you cannot meditate for lack of time. The real cause is restlessness of mind. Work and worship must go hand in hand. It is a very good thing if one can devote oneself entirely to spiritual practices. But how many can do that? There are two types of men who can sit still without working. One is the idiot who is too dull to be active, and the other is the saint who has gone beyond all activity. As the Gita says, without performing work, no one can attain worklessness. Work is a means to reach the stage of meditation. Even those who give up work and lead an ascetic life have to devote some time to the necessary requirements of living. None can live without work. As Sri Krishna says, your very nature will force you to work. Learn to work for the Lord instead of working for yourself. Know that you are worshipping the Lord through your work. If you can work with this attitude, work will not bind you. On the contrary, it will improve you in every way, physically, mentally, intellectually, morally, and spiritually. Offer yourself body and soul to the Lord. Give yourself entirely to Him. Say to Him, I give myself body and soul to you. O Lord, do with me what you will. I am your servant, ready to serve you to the best of my ability. If you can really do this, the responsibility for your spiritual well-being rests with Him. But this resignation should be usurped by the right spirit and complete faith. No doubt must enter your heart. It is no use taking the name of God to cross the river and at the same time wringing your cloth to keep it dry. For 5 or 6 years after the passing away of our master, we led a wandering life. Then one day Swami Vivekananda called me aside and said, there is nothing in this wandering life. Work for the sake of the Lord. We worked hard in those days, but it did us no harm. Rather, it did us good. We had great faith in Swamiji's words. I tell you, you must have infinite faith in these two great souls, Sri Ramakrishna and Swami ji, and work for them. Work and worship must be harmonized. This at first may seem difficult, but one must try again and again. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the newborn calf tries to stand up, but it falls down many times. Still, it never gives up. Finally, after repeated efforts, it is not only able to stand, but it learns to run also. The reference is made to Sri Ramakrishna's parable of the milkmaid and the Brahmin priest. A milkmaid used to supply milk to a Brahmin priest on the other side of the river. Owing to the irregularities of the boat service, the woman was sometimes late. One day the priest rebuked her for the delay, and she explained that sometimes she had to wait a long time for the boatman to ferry her across. The priest said, but my good woman, people cross the ocean of life by uttering the name of God. Cannot you cross even this little river? From that day forward, she was never late with the milk. One day the priest asked her why it was that she was never late anymore, and she said simply, I take the name of God and cross the river just as you told me. The priest was astonished and wanted to see for himself, so he went to the river with the woman and watched her as she uttered the name of God and started to walk across the water. Halfway across, the woman turned and saw the priest following her, timidly holding his skirt up on of the water, and she said, why is it, sir, that you are repeating the name of the Lord and at the same time holding up your skirt to keep it dry? Have you no faith? It is excellent training for the mind to take up some form of work at the beginning of the spiritual life. When the mind is trained, it can be applied to meditation and other spiritual practices. The mind that is allowed to drift at one time will drift at the time of meditation also. There comes a time when the spiritually advanced man wants to devote himself solely to meditation and prayer. When that time comes, work drops away from him of itself. However, this happens only when the mind is spiritually awakened. If one who is not thus awakened should attempt to lead a life of exclusive spiritual practice by sheer effort of the will, it can last only for a few days. Then comes monotony, sometimes followed by madness. Again, there are others who follow the spiritual path in a haphazard way and at the same time keep their minds busy with worldly things. That is not good. Great strength can be acquired through the practices of continence. A true celibate can do the work of 25 men. Practice continence, japam and meditation, and seek the company of the holy. Not all men know what is best for them. Therefore, they should seek the society of a holy man. Unless a man spends some time in solitude or in the company of the holy, he cannot understand his own mind. It is very difficult to grow spiritually in the midst of tumult and confusion. I give freedom to all. I want everyone to advance along his own way. But when I find a devotee who is unable to do this, I come to his aid. Life, eternal life is before you. What matters it if you devote a few lives to the service of God? even supposing they are spent in vain. But I tell you, this cannot be. You will see for yourself too what great spiritual heights you will soar through the grace of Sri Ramakrishna. Give up this easy-going life, otherwise it will be impossible for you to perform your spiritual practices properly. No matter what work you do, do it with your whole heart. That is the secret of work, as Swami used to say. Set yourself to work for the Lord, and before you begin any task, remember the Lord and offer your salutations to Him. Do this from time to time while you are working, and also when you have finished. Spend all your time thinking of the life, teachings and commandments of Sri Ramakrishna. Know in your heart that the work you are doing for Him. Strive to attain tranquility. Do not give way to inertia, but struggle to gain spiritual calmness. If you allow your mind to wander and lead a purposeless life, a bad reaction is bound to follow. Passions will overcome you. Through the practice of japam and meditation, the senses are controlled of themselves, but in the beginning they must be kept in check. Practice japam and meditation. Gradually, after continued practice, you will enjoy sitting for long periods of time absorbed in God. The beginner, however, should start with short periods at a time, 4 or 5 times a day. Practice japam whether you like it or not. As you persist, the mind is certain to become absorbed in contemplation. To attain spiritual tranquility, you must keep up a regular practice, even against your inclinations. Spiritual awakening is bound to come, and when it does, all the passions that ever existed in you will be forgotten. Maharaj, why do I insist that you devote yourself heart and soul to the Lord? When we were your age, Sri Ramakrishna kept careful watch over our spiritual practices. In youth, the mind is like unbaked clay and can be molded into any shape. Your minds are still young and pure. They have not been baked in the fire of worldliness. Therefore, they can be easily directed towards God. If the mind is molded now, you will achieve your purpose. You will not be troubled by distractions. The mind is like a package of mustard seeds. If the seeds are once scattered, it is difficult to gather them up again. Likewise, when the energies of the mind have been scattered as one grows older, it is very difficult to collect them and turn the mind toward God. Make God the be-all and all of your life. Devote yourself sincerely to realizing Him, and you will be free from all sorrow and pain. You will inherit eternal happiness. Man seeks happiness in the world, but does he find it? In his mad pursuit, he toils hard and runs hither and thither after many objects, only to find shadows after all. His life ebbs, he dies in vain. Leave these fleeting pleasures of the world behind you. Give your mind to God, be devoted to Him, and you will find real happiness. Devote your mind to the world and to the pleasures of the world, and great will be your suffering. Devote your mind to God, and great will be your joy. No matter what riches you may possess, no matter what prospects you may have for living a happy and prosperous life, you still will not find lasting happiness. Pain follows pleasure, and every action brings its own reaction. Nothing lasts but the one true happiness, which is to be found in God. You are boys. Young boys, your minds have not yet received any worldly impressions. If you can struggle now, you will be able to escape life's sorrows and Miss cries, never forget the ideal of a human life. We have not inherited this human birth to waste it in eating, drinking, and sleeping like animals. Since you have been born as a human being, spurn all worldly enjoyments and resolve to realize God. Never waver in your purpose, even if it means to die in the attempt. Enjoy the ecstasy of devotion and spiritual practice now and then enter the doors of infinite bliss forever. The most important aim in spiritual life is the attainment of God's grace. The breeze of grace is always blowing. Unfurl your sails. Give up worldly enjoyments and completely resign yourself to the Lord. You cannot love God and the world at the same time. If you want God, shun temporal pleasures. Ask yourself, what is it I want? Do I want this fleeting life of transient pleasures, or do I want the eternal bliss of everlasting life? When a man has renounced all worldly cravings and regards God as his own, God is very near. Such a man binds God to him with the fetters of love. Think of him as your very own. Pray to him, Lord, reveal yourself to me. God cannot remain unmoved by the pleas of such a devotee. He hastens to him and takes him in his arms. Oh, how inexpressible is that joy, how boundless that bliss. Only he can know who has had that experience, compared to which all worldly pleasures seem insipid and worthless. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, he who has given up sense enjoyments for God's sake has already covered 3 parts of the journey. Is it easy to renounce bodily cravings? Only if one has God's grace and has practiced severe spiritual disciplines in past lives can he pave the strength to renounce the world in this life. Purify your mind so that no worldly desire can arise in it. You have renounced everything and pledged your life to God, but remember, it is very difficult to lead a pure and unsullied life. You may think it is easy, but let me tell you, it is like walking on the sharp edge of a razor. Perfect continence is the sole condition of success in spiritual life, but it is difficult, even impossible, to practice absolute purity without love and faith in God. The world is full of passions and pleasures. Every day you will see 99% of the people rushing in mad pursuit after sensual pleasures. Your mind is in constant danger of becoming contaminated. Therefore, you must engage your mind in thinking good thoughts, studying good books, and discussing uplifting subjects. You must spend your time in worship of God, in service to holy men, and in contemplation. This is the only way to mold your character. First of all, be firm in your vow of chastity. Everything else will follow. You cannot have a continental life unless you devote yourself to God. And without continence, realization of God is impossible. Unless you realize God, you will not find happiness. And without happiness, life is vain. Therefore, I beg you, my dear children, struggle and make an effort, and soon you will find faith and devotion awakening within you. You will be blessed by the vision of God, and you will become the heirs of immortal bliss. Disciple: Maharaj, we have all come here to the monastery with the same ideal and purpose, renouncing our own hearth and home. Why is it then that we cannot live in harmony with one another? Maharaj: my child, you must all learn to bear and forbear. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, He who forbears lives. Even people living in the world have to bear many things. The great strength of character is to live in harmony with all. No one can find peace if he hurts another. Never utter one word that would hurt another. Tell the truth, but never tell a harsh truth. As long as you think God is there, you will find no peace. When you know and can feel that He is here, pointing to His heart, you will find peace. What is the use of wandering about from place to place? Have not you seen hundreds of such wandering monks, and what have they achieved? Are you to become like them? Swami Vivekananda founded this monastery towards one great and consider that try to live your life and mold your character accordingly. The spiritual practices of one single man are enough to make a monastery vibrate with holiness. On what a wonderful spiritual atmosphere there was at the Dakshineswar temple when Sri Ramakrishna was living there. The moment our boat touched the steps of the landing stage, we felt as if we had reached heaven itself, and what a wonderful love existed between us, brother disciples. Between you there is no such sweet relationship. A holy man should be sweet in temperament and should never speak harshly to anyone. I remember a holy man I once met at Vrindavan. He was a regular visitor at the temple. For a few days he did not come and I missed him. When he came again, I asked him the reason for his absence. He explained that he had had a sore foot one day in the crowd. The foot of another devotee had touched his and temporarily disabled him. I was deeply touched by the way that holy man explained the incident. He did not complain that he had been trampled upon by some careless person. To him every foot was the Lord's foot, and the Lord had placed his foot upon him. If only you could all be sweet and have love in your hearts, then there would be great harmony. You have to make the Lord the center of all your affections. In this monastery you have so many opportunities to do Swami's work. You cannot always meditate. You are young, this is the time to practice spiritual disciplines. What can you do when you are old? Develop love in your heart and you will achieve everything. You have become dry. Where is your early enthusiasm? You seem to be quite satisfied with your present condition. But I tell you, do not remain satisfied with yourself as you are now. Become dissatisfied. Try to move ever onward in your search. Do not stop until you have found the diamond mine. You have taken refuge in Sri Ramakrishna. You first of all, the mind, which is the ruler of the senses, must be controlled. After that, the mind and the intellect must be merged in the Atma. When you are in the society of a holy man, you may think that your passions are dead, but do not be deceived. You are free of passions only after you have attained Samadhi. Therefore, be always vigilant until you have transcended the mind. Referring to a parable of Sri Ramakrishna, a woodcutter going into the forest to gather wood met a monk who said, "Go deeper into the wood." The woodcutter did as he was told and soon came to a large group of sandalwood trees. He stayed there for a while and then he began to think. The monk told me to go deeper into the wood. He did not tell me to stop here. So he continued his journey and He went further and further into the wood. He went further and further into the wood. He discovered first a silver mine, then a gold mine, until at last he came upon a mine filled with diamonds and other precious stones. You are young and pure. What infinite possibilities are before you? Why do you not try hard to follow our advice and learn to love and do the things we ask you to do? Learn to make your heart and your lips one, and let not your mind deceive you. Swamiji's ideal was liberation for one's self and service to mankind. With one hand hold on to the feet of the Lord, and with the other do his work. Maharaj, first of all, the mind, which is the ruler of the senses, must be controlled. After that, the mind and the intellect must be merged in the Atma. When you are in the society of a holy man, you may think that your passions are dead, but do not be deceived. You are free of passions only after you have attained Samadhi. Therefore, be always vigilant until you have transcended the mind. Religion is true. These truths are not preached merely to make man moral or to keep an orderly society. God truly is. He is the reality and can be realized. He is true. There is no greater truth than He. Be calm, tranquil, and self-controlled. Meditate 4 times regularly each day. The best times are early in the morning, at midday, at sunset, and at the midnight. Be steadfast in your ideal, even when the mind is restless. Keep up the regularity of your practices under all conditions. Study the Gita every day. By such study, the mind can be cleansed of all unnecessary thoughts and anxieties. This I know from personal experience. Devote some time every day to self-analysis. Ask yourself, why have I come here? Who am I passing my time? How am I passing my time? Do I really want God? Am I really struggling to find Him? A man's mind tries to deceive him, but he must not allow himself to be swayed by his mind. He must curb and rule it. Hold fast to the truth. Be pure-hearted. The purer you become, the more will your mind be absorbed in God. You will be able to see the subtle deceptions of the mind, and you will be able to root them out who are your enemies. Your own senses, but if you can control them, they will become your friends. Your mind is your only enemy, and your mind is your only friend. The man who analyzes himself thus can wipe out the subtle deceptions of the mind, and by so doing move rapidly along the path of spirituality. Plunge yourself into the practice of japam and meditation. The mind is gross and feeds on gross objects, but as you practice japam and meditation, the mind will become subtle and learn to grasp subtle truths. Practice. Find out for yourself whether there is really a God. A little physical austerity also is good sometimes. For instance, on the day of the new moon, or on the 11th day after the new or the full moon, eat only one meal. Never waste your time in unnecessary talk. Remember God constantly. Remember Him when you eat, when you sit, when you lie down. Remember Him whatever you do. By such repeated practice, you will find that when you go to meditate, it will be easy to remember God and become absorbed in Him. As your mind becomes absorbed in meditation, a fountain of joy will spring up within you. Give no time to idle cares or idle talk. Idle talk wastes much energy. In the Upanishads it is written, give up all vain talk. Devote all your time to meditation upon the Atma. In the Gita it is said, give your mind to me, be my devotee, worship me and bow down to me. And Sri Ramakrishna used to say, never squander the energies of your mind. This means remember God constantly. The worldly man is very careful not to squander his money, but he gives little heed to how he squanders his mind. There is nothing greater nor easier than the constant remembrance of God. Such a practice awakens the Kundalini. The veils of Maya are removed one after another and a new vision opens up. Then you will see the wonderful treasure that lies hidden within you. You will unfold your own divinity. As a general rule, a man's mind runs it downward like a river towards lust and gold. Name and fame change the current and make the mind flow upward towards God. The mind of Sri Ramakrishna lived always on the transcendental plane. Only with much difficulty could he bring his mind down to normal consciousness and to the things of the world. Japam, japam, japam. Even while you work, practice japam. Keep the name of the Lord spinning in the mind's midst of all your activities. If you can do this, all the burning of the heart will be soothed. Many sinners have become pure and free and divine by taking refuge in the name of God. Have intense faith in God and in His name. Know that they are not different. He dwells in the hearts of His devotees. Call on Him earnestly. Pray to Him. Reveal your grace to me. Give me faith and devotion. Pray earnestly. Make your mind and your lips one. Cover everything with God. And as you learn to see Him everywhere, you will become humbler than a blade of grass. See Him in all creatures. Hear only of God and talk only of Him. Shun that place where His name is not uttered, as you would a graveyard. Repeat His name and meditation upon Him. He is our very own. He easily becomes revealed to us. There is the path of devotion and there is the path of knowledge. A devotee likes the form of God. He calls upon Him. He sings His praise. He chants His name and sees His shining form. Sometimes he weeps and sometimes he laughs. The followers of the path of knowledge seek for the light and they become illumined. However, one is not different from the other. In the end, the devotee and the man of knowledge become one. Ignorance is destroyed by following the path of devotion as well as by following the path of knowledge. The light of knowledge alone shines. What lies beyond the light of knowledge? He alone knows, who goes beyond none else, and no one can reveal that. Have patience, infinite patience, until you reach the reality. In the primary stage, meditation is tiresome. It is like learning the alphabet. Gradually peace comes. There are boys who, after they have been initiated, complain to me that they are not getting anywhere. I do not listen to them for 2 or 3 years. Then later they come and tell me, yes, Maharaj, I am getting somewhere now. Do not be impatient. Struggle intensely for 2 or 3 years and your heart will be flooded with joy. Devotee: Maharaj, we are university students and have come to you for spiritual advice. Maharaj, learn to speak the truth always and observe continence. Devotee: We have been practicing breathing exercise. Should we continue these practices, Maharaj? No, breathing exercises in themselves can be extremely dangerous. It is sufficient if you will repeat the name of the Lord. Through the practice of japam and meditation, you will reach the stage of kumbhaka, suspension of breath, essential to a concentrated mind without risking the dangers which may easily come from the practice of breathing exercises. Practice japam and your breathing will become finer and finer, and you will gain control of the vital energies in a natural way. Maharaj, it is not an easy task to wholly surrender oneself, body, mind and soul to God. How can I surrender myself to God? I have not known Him nor seen Him, therefore how can I love Him? These are the doubts that arise in the mind. Once a man admitted to Sri Ramakrishna that he felt no inclination to meditate on God. The master asked him whom or what he loved most in the world, and the man told him that he had a pet lamb which he loved very dearly. All right, said the master, that is very good. Every time you feed your lamb, every time you pet him or do anything for him, think that you are serving the Lord. If you can do this with the wholehearted sincerity, you will reach the highest. Blessed are those who have received the grace of an illumined Guru. The Guru shows the way to the other shore and removes all the obstacles. Have intense faith in the words of the Guru and follow his precepts faithfully. Thus will the impurities of the mind be washed away, and the light of knowledge dawn. Enlightenment comes quickly. No one who has faith in the Guru, but who must learn to see God in the Guru must never be regarded as man. By worshipping him and serving him as God, the body and mind are purified. Through the help of the Guru, God is first revealed, and then Guru and God become one. Unless the heart and mind are pure, the visions of God does not come. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, when a man finds an illumined Guru, he is soon freed from the sense of ego and he himself becomes illumined. But no man can free himself from the bonds of worldliness if he follows an ignorant teacher. There is suffering for both the disciple and the teacher. For how can he who is not illumined give illumination to another? How can he who has not found God and received his command, who has not been strengthened by the strength of God, give strength and help to another? How can the blind lead the blind? Only a free soul can give freedom to another. If a man truly longs for God, if he sincerely desires to practice spiritual disciplines, he is bound to find an illumined Guru. That disciple who has the grace of the Guru knows the path, let him follow it diligently. My boys, you have the grace of the Guru. You have the desire for spiritual knowledge. By receiving the Lord's name, you have received His grace, and you also have the society of the holy. Now you must strive to get the grace of your own mind. By gaining mastery over your own mind, you will by its grace realize the grace of God and the grace of the Guru. The tendency of the lower mind is downward towards worldliness. This tendency must somehow be controlled. Hold the reins tightly as the bird trainer controls and trains the elephant, so must you learn to train and control your mind. Be its master, let it not control you. Teach it to give up all cravings for fleshly enjoyments. When the mind is once freed from craving, it becomes your slave. That is why the ideal of renunciation is so highly extolled in the Gita and other scriptures. God and the lust for worldly enjoyments cannot go together. To have one, you have to let go the other. At the same time, it is not possible to entirely give up the lower pleasures unless you have tasted the joy of the higher. That's why I insist that you give your whole heart to God now, while you are young. Make Him your own. God is my all in all. Fix this truth firmly in your hearts, and the path will be easy. When once you taste the joy of the Lord, all other pleasures will become insipid. Dedicate your lives to Him. Take refuge in Him only, and then let Him do with you what He wills. Maharaj, within each one of us there is free will. This freedom of the will is in reality the freedom of the Atma within. Sri Rama Krishna used to say, awaken the power of that self which is within you. After all, what is the meaning and purpose of spiritual practices and disciplines? It is to strengthen this will, the will to attain God in this very life. As the mind becomes purer, the will becomes stronger. It is downright laziness to relax this will and think that in some future time you will realize God. Think of Buddha, what determination he had. After years of searching, he finally set himself down under a tree, determined to realize God then and there or die in the attempt. That is what is needed. I tell you a secret. You may not fully understand its meaning now, but in time its truth will dawn upon you. And this truth is that every man's will and mind lead him progressively towards good. Some are led along thorny paths, some are led along smooth paths, but all reach the same goal. Knowing this, there are some illumined teachers who advocate the following spiritual discipline. Let go the mind and will, let them wander at random, but always keep vigilant watch, be the witness. Thus, if the aspirant really lets go and still keeps constant watch, even though for a time the mind may run after filth and vanity, in time it is bound to turn progressively towards God. Who can fathom the infinite moods of the infinite God? Whenever we try to express Him through your mind and speech, we limit Him. It is easy to do great deeds, the deeds that bring name and fame, but it is by his small everyday actions that a man's character is known. The true karma yogi does not work to gain publicity. No matter how insignificant his work may be, he throws himself wholeheartedly into the task, because for him his work has become worship of God. Everyone wants to do the work he best likes to do, but that is not the secret of work. Whatever work you do, whether you like it or not, know that it is the Lord's work and adjust yourself accordingly. Remember this, all the work must be done as worship of God. Give 3 parts of your mind to God and apply the rest to your work. If you can do this, your work will indeed be worship and your heart will be filled with joy. In In no circumstances, whatever you do, never give up your spiritual practices. If you give up the practices of japam and meditation and engage yourself solely in work, egoism is bound to arise in you and you will become the source of quarrels and disharmony. Someone broke a bottle. Maharaj continued, how careless you are. Where is your mind? With such a restless mind, nothing can be accomplished. Learn to perform all duties, great or small, with a concentrated mind. He who can concentrate his mind in action can also concentrate when practicing meditation. This is the true secret of work. First, learn to like your work, but do not look to the results. If you can perform every action as a worship of the Lord, then only will you like to work and feel no attachments to the fruits of your actions. In the Gita, Sri Krishna says that it is possible to attain liberation through work only, but in order to achieve this, one must have intense renunciation. You must also know that one can become a true karma yogi only after the attainment of liberation. All mental, physical and spiritual energies must be concentrated. Then only can you reach God. Be active, but keep the constant recollection of God. Faith, without God's faith. Without faith, none can attain God. He who has true faith has certainly reached God. If you have faith in one penny, it has value, but if you have no faith even in a golden piece, it has no value for you. He who has faith in God is freed from doubts. Without renunciation, there can be no faith, nor devotion. Renunciation is of the first importance. It destroys all ego. Maharaj, pray to Sri Ramakrishna, he still lives. Pray to him, you are mine and I am yours. Merge yourself in his consciousness. He will show you the path. Disciple, but Maharaj, do you mean to say that Sri Ramakrishna is still living? Maharaj, of course he is living. Are you mad? If he were not living, why should we lead such a life, giving up our homes and all our possessions? He is. Asked to see and know him. Pour out your whole heart in prayer to him. He will remove all your doubts and show you his true nature. Disciple, do you see him, Maharaj? Maharaj says, yes, through his grace I see him. Anyone can see him if he have his grace. But how many are there who love him? How many yearn to see him? It is not an easy matter to see him, God, without a harmonious development of the mental, physical and spiritual powers. Religion is not possible. Faith, intense faith is what is needed. He who has faith has seen God. He who has no faith in God doubts everything. He who has faith in God overcomes all doubts. Without dispassion towards the world, faith and love do not grow. You must have dispassion. To lose the ego in God is dispassion. Disciple, Maharaj, when I sit down to meditate, I find that my mind wanders and I think of many things. How am I to stop this restless, Maharaj? Just as the Ganges has its ebb and flow, so is there an ebb and flow in spiritual moods at the beginning, but later as you continue, there will come an even flow of the mind towards God. Try diligently to check this mad outward rush of your mind. You can do this successfully if you do not try to meditate as soon as you sit down. First, draw the mind back from its external pursuits by means of discrimination and lock it up inside at the sacred feet of your chosen ideal. Then make japam and meditate. If you try diligently to follow this course for some time, the mind will naturally cease to wander. The way of japam is the easiest path to follow. By constantly performing japam, the mind can easily be made calm and steady, and finally it will lose itself in God. Therefore, I ask you to perform japam regularly and often, and at the same time meditate on the chosen ideal. This combined practice brings quick success. Always practice your disciplines and unswerving steadfastness, and let not a single day pass without them. Whether you like it or not, sit down at the appointed hour every day. If you can continue your practice for 3 years with unerring regularity, I assure you that love for God will grow in you and you will feel yourself nearer to Him. Then you will be prompted from within to call upon Him and Him only. Then you will not be able to turn your mind in any other direction. It is at the stage that the aspirant feels the joy of spiritual life within his heart. Without intense love for God, it is very difficult to practice spiritual disciplines in the right way, even after retiring into solitude. When you are alone, there is always a possibility of serious consequences. Therefore, two of a similar type and temperament should live together, so that mutual help and guidance may be given. Should any spiritual crisis befall one or the other at any time, but on the other hand, if there are more than two, confusion may arise. They may indulge in worldly talk. Such idle talk not only causes the mind to lose its higher tendencies and nobler aspirations, but makes it forget God. While undergoing intense disciplines, it is good to cut down the quantity of food to a minimum. Japam and meditation are not possible on a full stomach, because the greater part of your energy will be squandered in digesting the food and the mind will remain disturbed. That's why moderation in habits, in food, in recreation, in everything has been so strongly enjoined by the Gita. Yoga is not for the man who overeats, the Lord says, or for him who fasts excessively. It is not for him who sleeps too much or for the keeper of exaggerated vigils. In the sacred monastery, how great are the facilities for spiritual practices. You do not have to concern yourself about food or clothes or anything else. All is ready at hand. Live here and apply yourself wholeheartedly to a life of constant prayer and meditation. No good comes of having hike a vagabond, my child. If you think that you can become a Mahatma or a great seer by wandering here and there, let me tell you, you are mistaken. You cannot become a saint that way. Without unceasing practice, you cannot have any religious experience. It cannot be had by trickery. If you sincerely long for God, you must plunge into meditation and become completely lost in God. So I end this video here. Thank you, my dear, for listening this video with patience. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Thank you, my dear friend. Namaskar. Namaste.